Mrs. Kolashevsky, Mr. Montgomery, distinguished troopers, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Commanding General, 1st Infantry Division in Fort Riley, Major General Wayne W. Grigsby, Jr., and the 1st Infantry Division in Fort Riley Command Sergeant Major Joseph C. Cornelison, welcome to the February retirement ceremony. Each month, a ceremony is held to honor our military personnel and Department of the Army civilian personnel who have served their country with distinction. Serving as the official party for today's ceremony is the Deputy Commanding General for Support, 1st Infantry Division in Fort Riley, Brigadier General Patrick D. Frank, and the First Sergeant of the Dental Activity Fort Riley, Kansas, Sergeant First Class Travis Weisler. Units from left to right represented by their colors are the 1st Armored Brigade Combat Team, 1st Infantry Division, the 2nd Armored Brigade Combat Team, 1st Infantry Division, the Combat Aviation Brigade, 1st Infantry Division, the Division Artillery, 1st Infantry Division, the Sustainment Brigade, 1st Infantry Division. The installation and partner units are comprised of the United States Army Garrison, the Medical Activity Fort Riley, the Dental Activity Fort Riley. The case colors represent the 2nd Armored Brigade Combat Team currently deployed in support of Operation Spartan Shield and the Sustainment Brigade, currently deployed in support of Operation Spartan Shield. Please come forward at any time to take photographs of our retirees, except during the playing of the national anthem. After years of commendable service to their country, every career soldier and Department of the Army civilian comes to a time when they put aside their duty apparel and retire, either to a new profession or a well-deserved rest. In today's ceremony, the men and women of the 1st Infantry Division in Fort Riley will pay tribute to these retirees and their families who have helped ensure the defense of this great nation during the most momentous period of its history. We ask that you please stand for the invocation given by Chaplain Raja Kandanata of the Medical Activity Command, Fort Riley, Kansas, and remain standing for the arrival of the official party and the singing of the national anthem by Specialist Kira McLean and the 1st Infantry Division Army Band under the direction of Sergeant First Class William Knight.
Would you pray with me, please? Gracious Lord, we look to you for our strength and hope today. We give thanks to you for these soldiers and Army civilians, for their faithful service and for defending the ideals of this great nation. They fought many battles and risked their lives to uphold the freedom around the world. Our civilians worked tirelessly to resource our soldiers. May we build upon the strong foundation that they built for us. Lord, today as they begin a new chapter in their lives, I pray that you help them in this new journey. Perhaps some are already prepared for this day and looking forward to the next chapter. Others may be wondering what is next. I pray that you guide their steps as they navigate through these challenges ahead. We appreciate their families for standing by these individuals, for enduring the hardship through separation, and for the sacrifices they have made. May they find fulfillment in their lives. Now we ask your blessings upon this ceremony and lead us in the everlasting way. In the strong name of our Savior, Amen.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watch were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, the Deputy Commanding General for Support, 1st Infantry Division in Fort Riley, Brigadier General Patrick D. Frank.
Well, good morning, everybody. Mr. Montgomery, Mrs. Kolashevsky, good to see you, Bucky. Representative Roethlisberger, Commissioner Sands, Commanders, Command Sergeant Majors, distinguished guests of our Flint Hills community, and especially the family and friends of our retirees. Thank you for joining us today as we celebrate the accomplishments of these exceptional soldiers and Department of the Army civilians, and thank them for a career of selfless service to our Army and to the nation. My name is Pat Frank, and I am a Big Red 1 soldier, one that is proud that his duty is here today with these outstanding Army retirees. Our retiring soldiers and DA civilians have a combined total of 259 years of service. I'll say that again, 259 years of service. Well, there's only 10 of them out here too. It's pretty incredible. Their experiences in the Army from day one of basic training through today are chronicled in our country's history books. Sitting before you are the soldiers that freed Kuwait from Saddam Hussein in 1990 in just over 100 hours of combat. They secured a lasting peace in the Balkans, and since 9/11, these volunteer soldiers have been on point for the nation in both Afghanistan and Iraq, removing 2 oppressive regimes. They have taken the stand to dismantle the framework of terror established by Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, Jaish al-Mahdi insurgents, and most recently, ISIS. These heroes have made a lasting difference for the silent majority of Afghan and Iraqi citizens in achieving stability within these war-torn countries. Our retirees today have walked through the history books of the United States. We are in awe of their demonstrated bravery on the battlefield and their patriotic commitment to duty. Our exceptional Department of the Army civilians are the foundation of Fort Riley, making it the best place to live, the best place to train, the best place to deploy from, the best place to come home to. The efforts of these unsung heroes improves the quality of life that soldiers and Army families enjoy and builds readiness in the 1st Infantry Division. For our retiring DA civilians, thank you for all you've done for Fort Riley and the division. You will always be a member of our team. The soldiers and civilians that we're honoring today have served in critical positions throughout our unit formations and garrison organizations. Tough, demanding jobs that require great leaders. These positions were critical in peacetime and are even more demanding now that we're engaged in combat. Assignments like Chief of Installation Planning, Company First Sergeant, Platoon Sergeant, Battalion Truck Master, Battalion Maintenance Manager, Chief of Information Services, Unit Sponsorship Coordinator, Division Indirect Fire Supporter, Medical Support Coordinator, Airspace Control Chief, and Division Planner. The program you received today provides some interesting background on our retirees. For instance, 80% of this group have chosen to remain with us here in Kansas. Additionally, I had the opportunity to talk to many of the retirees. Here are a few of their retirement activities. I plan to spend more time with family. I will open my own business. Spending time in the deer stand and getting my elk permit. I think the chaplain's going to be there with you. Relax and travel. Coach Little League Baseball. Give back to the community. Sleep in past PT hours. Caveat to it. But still stay in shape. It's a lifelong habit. Watch the grandkids grow up. Knock out my honey-do list and then go fishing at Milford Lake. I'm in on that one. Continue to support soldiers in the division as a Kansas resident. Every leader I talk to, soldier and DA civilian, is committed to providing service to his or her new community. Their Army values of loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage will be immediately acknowledged in their volunteer organizations that they join. These are our newest civic leaders based on their professional capabilities and their leadership skills developed over the 259 total years of service that we've talked about. As we pause to remember the careers of each retiree, we would be remiss if we did not thank the families, whether spouse, children, brothers, sisters, or parents. The retirees are the strength of our Army. Their families sitting by their sides are the strength of our nation. It is not easy to be an Army family. Spouses make multiple household moves, sometimes by themselves, other times overseas. And children attend several different schools over a 20-year career. The families here today have shouldered the burden of combat operations, courageously supporting us and allowing their soldier to remain focused on the demanding mission at hand and achieving victory. The letters, care packages, and emails always brought a smile to your deployed soldier. All of us in uniform sincerely thank you for the encouragement and support. To all of today's retirees, you may be leaving the roles at Fort Riley. He's okay too. That's part of the Army family right there. There you go. You may be leaving the roles here at Fort Riley, but your legacy will remain in our formations and the garrison. Each of you has led, trained, and mentored the next generation of U.S. Army soldiers and Department of the Army civilians. You have been a contributing member to the greatest military force in history, and you have liberated hundreds of thousands of people from tyranny. Be proud of your accomplishments and the Army you have built through hard work. We wish you and your family the best in your future endeavors. Continue to live the division model as civic leaders. No mission too difficult, no sacrifice too great. Duty first.
At this time, Sergeant First Class Travis Wiesler will come forward for the awards portion of the ceremony. First Sergeant Donald Allen Good is retiring after 20 years of military service. First Sergeant Good is commended for his outstanding service to the nation, culminating with his assignment as the Network Operations Chief, G6, Signal Company, Division Headquarters and Headquarters Battalion, 1st Infantry Division. First Sergeant Good and his wife Jessica have 4 children, Devin, Dakota, Drew, and Desiree. The Good family will tentatively retire in Junction City, Kansas, where he plans to work in the information technology field. Today, First Sergeant Good is receiving the Meritorious Service Medal, the Department of the Army Certificate of Retirement, and a Certificate of Appreciation. All Army certificates of retirement presented today are signed by the Army Chief of Staff, and all certificates of appreciation presented today are signed by the Commander-in-Chief. First Sergeant Good is also receiving a folded American flag. Brigadier General Frank is presenting an American flag and division coin to each retiree as a token of appreciation on behalf of a grateful nation for their selfless service in the defense of our liberty. Each retiree will also receive a lapel pin that they can wear on their civilian clothes. His wife Jessica receives the Department of the Army Certificate of Appreciation and a single red rose for her dedication to her husband and the nation. Today's roses are provided by the Society of the 1st Infantry Division. By order of the Secretary of the Army, First Sergeant Donald Allen Good, having qualified for retirement, is released from active duty and placed on the retired list. Ladies and gentlemen, First Sergeant Donald Allen Good, retired, and Mrs. Good. Sergeant First Class William Maurice Ward is retiring after 26 years of military service. Sergeant First Class Ward is commended for his outstanding service to the nation, culminating with his assignment as Truckmaster, Alpha Company, 101st Brigade Support Battalion, 1st Armored Brigade Combat Team, 1st Infantry Division. Sergeant First Class Ward and his wife Ellen have 2 children, Hannah and Jaden. The Ward family will retire in Olathe, Kansas, where he plans to become a transportation manager within the railroad system. Today, Sergeant First Class Ward is receiving the Meritorious Service Medal, the Department of the Army Certificate of Retirement, and a Certificate of Appreciation. His wife Ellen receives the Department of the Army Certificate of Appreciation and a single red rose for her dedication to her husband and the nation. By order of the Secretary of the Army, Sergeant First Class William Maurice Ward, having qualified for retirement, is released from active duty and placed on the retired list. Ladies and gentlemen, Sergeant First Class William Maurice Ward, retired, and Mrs. Ward. Sergeant First Class Darrell Wilson is retiring after 33 years of military service. Sergeant First Class Wilson is commended for his outstanding service to the nation, culminating with his assignment as the Ground Equipment Maintenance Manager, Headquarters and Headquarters Company, Special Troops Battalion, 1st Sustainment Brigade, 1st Infantry Division. Sergeant First Class Wilson and his wife Maximina have 2 children, Maxine Kalia Wilson and Julio C. Velez. The Wilson family will retire in Valrico, Florida, where he plans to continue working on his graduate degree and focus on spending time with his family. Today, Sergeant First Class Wilson is receiving the Meritorious Service Medal, the Department of the Army Certificate of Retirement, and a Certificate of Appreciation. His wife Maximina receives the Department of the Army Certificate of Appreciation and a single red rose for her dedication to her husband and the nation. By order of the Secretary of the Army, Sergeant First Class Darrell Wilson, having qualified for retirement, is released from active duty and placed on the retired list. Ladies and gentlemen, Sergeant First Class Darrell Wilson, retired, and dismissed. Sergeant First Class Brian James Ellerman is retiring after 26 years of military service. Sergeant First Class Ellerman is commended for his outstanding service to the nation, culminating with his assignment as the G5 Non-Commissioned Officer in Charge, Operations Company, Division Headquarters and Headquarters Battalion, 1st Infantry Division. Sergeant First Class Ellerman and his wife Mary have 4 children, Zachary, Dakota Ellis, Haley, and Farrell White. The Ellerman family will retire in Wichita, Kansas, where he plans to return to school and pursue a career in computer engineering. Today, Sergeant First Class Ellerman is receiving the Meritorious Service Medal, the Department of the Army Certificate of Retirement, and a Certificate of Appreciation. His wife Mary receives the Department of the Army Certificate of Appreciation and a single red rose for her dedication to her husband and the nation. By order of the Secretary of the Army, Sergeant First Class Brian James Ellerman, having qualified for retirement, is released from active duty and placed on the retired list. Ladies and gentlemen, Sergeant First Class Brian James Ellerman, retired, and Mrs. Ellerman. Sergeant First Class Clay Carey Cameron Weeks is retiring after 21 years of military service. Sergeant First Class Weeks is commended for his outstanding service to the nation, culminating with his assignment as the Airspace Command and Control Non-Commissioned Officer, Operations Company, Division Headquarters and Headquarters Battalion, 1st Infantry Division. Sergeant First Class Weeks and his wife Arthalia have 2 children, Jonathan and Joshua. The Weeks family will retire in Manhattan, Kansas, where he plans to join a full-time ministry and travel. Today, Sergeant First Class Weeks is receiving the Meritorious Service Medal, the Department of the Army Certificate of Retirement, and a Certificate of Appreciation. His wife Arthalia receives the Department of the Army Certificate of Appreciation and a single red rose for her dedication to her husband and the nation. By order of the Secretary of the Army, Sergeant First Class Clay Cameron Weeks, having qualified for retirement, is released from active duty and placed on the retired list. Ladies and gentlemen, Sergeant First Class Clay Carey Cameron Weeks, retired, and Mrs. Weeks. Staff Sergeant Robert Jean LeBourne is retiring after 20 years of military service. Staff Sergeant LeBourne is commended for his outstanding service to the nation, culminating with his assignment as the Division Fire Support Sergeant, Operations Company, Division Headquarters and Headquarters Battalion, 1st Infantry Division. Staff Sergeant LeBourne has 5 children, Elizabeth, Thomas, Margaret, Abigail, and Lana. The LeBourne family will retire in Junction City, Kansas, where he plans to seek employment in the local area. Today, Staff Sergeant LeBourne is receiving the Meritorious Service Medal, the Department of the Army Certificate of Retirement, and a Certificate of Appreciation. By order of the Secretary of the Army, Staff Sergeant Robert Jean LeBourne, having qualified for retirement, is released from active duty and placed on the retired list. Ladies and gentlemen, Staff Sergeant Robert Jean LeBourne, retired. Staff Sergeant Matthew Robert Keir is retiring after 21 years of military service. Staff Sergeant Keir is commended for his outstanding service to the nation, culminating with his assignment as the Battalion Sponsorship Coordinator, Headquarters and Headquarters Company, 2nd Battalion 34th Armor Regiment, 1st Armored Brigade Combat Team, 1st Infantry Division. Staff Sergeant Keir will retire in Waco, Texas, where he plans to work for the Veterans Affairs. Today, Staff Sergeant Keir is receiving the Army Commendation Medal, the Department of the Army Certificate of Retirement, and a Certificate of Appreciation. By order of the Secretary of the Army, Staff Sergeant Matthew Robert Keir, having qualified for retirement, is released from active duty and placed on the retired list. Ladies and gentlemen, Staff Sergeant Matthew Robert Keir, retired. Mr. Michael L. Gorham is retiring after 37 years of combined federal service. Mr. Gorham is commended for his outstanding service to the nation, culminating with his assignment as Division Chief, Master Planning, Directorate of Public Works. Mr. Gorham and his wife Deborah have 2 children, Kelly M. Ryan and Benjamin M. Gorham. The Gorham family will retire in Topeka, Kansas, where he plans to spend his retirement watching his grandkids grow up, work on home remodeling, and traveling by recreational vehicle. Today, Mr. Gorham is receiving the Department of the Army Certificate of Retirement and a Certificate of Appreciation. His wife Deborah receives the Department of the Army Certificate of Appreciation and a single red rose for her dedication to her husband and the nation. By order of the Secretary of the Army, Mr. Michael L. Gorham, having qualified for retirement, is released from active federal civil service. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Michael L. Gorham, retired, and Mrs. Gorham. Ms. Deborah S. Gorham is retiring after 36 years of civil service. Ms. Gorham is commended for her outstanding service to the nation.
So everybody knows this is an Army couple here, a DA civilian couple. All right. So Mike has 37 years. He's retiring today. Deb has 36 years. Combined total is 73 years in this couple right here. Amazing.
Ms. Gorham is commended for her outstanding service to the nation, culminating with her assignment as the Information Technology Specialist, Cybersecurity Division, Regional Network Enterprise Center. Ms. Gorham and her husband Michael have 2 children, Kelly M. Ryan and Benjamin M. Gorham. The Gorham family will retire in Topeka, Kansas, where she plans to spend her retirement watching the grandkids, doing volunteer work, and seeing where life leads her. Today, Ms. Gorham is receiving the Department of the Army Certificate of Retirement and a Certificate of Appreciation. By order of the Secretary of the Army, Ms. Deborah S. Gorham, having qualified for retirement, is released from active federal civil service. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Deborah S. Gorham, retired, and Mr. Gorham. Our final retiree that we honor today is Mr. Gale L. Bassett, who is retiring after 33 years of combined federal service. Mr. Bassett is commended for his outstanding service to the nation, culminating with his assignment as a medical support assistant, medical department activity. Mr. Bassett and his wife Kathleen have 2 children, Jacob and Joshua. The Bassett family will retire in Junction City, Kansas, where he plans to work at Brookdale Assisted Living Facility. Today, Mr. Bassett is receiving the Department of the Army Certificate of Retirement and a Certificate of Appreciation. His wife Kathleen receives the Department of the Army Certificate of Appreciation and a single red rose for her dedication to her husband and the nation. By order of the Secretary of the Army, Mr. Gale L. Bassett, having qualified for retirement, is released from active federal civil service. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Gale L. Bassett, retired, and Mrs. Bassett. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in a round of applause for all the retirees on a job well done. 2 songs will now be performed by Corporal Solomon DeBose and Specialist Kira McLean. Old Soldiers Never Die and Auld Lang Syne as a tribute to our retirees. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the playing and singing of the Big Red One song and the Army song. The words are printed in your program. Ladies and gentlemen, the retirees and their spouses will form a receiving line to your front. Please wait until they are all in position before coming forward to offer your congratulations. Please join us for today's reception, sponsored by the Fort Riley and Central Kansas chapter of the Association of the United States Army. This concludes the ceremony. Thank you for attending.